This is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards. The book Infected, Secrets from the Medical Underground will teach you how to prevent and treat any infection you may encounter. Learn how the different systems of your body work to repel infections and how you can enhance each one. You'll learn previously unknown methods to supercharge your body's immune system, preventing most infections from ever starting. These are secrets only known to a handful of courageous doctors who have done their own research, networked, and discovered ways to hack your immunity. This groundbreaking book is all you'll ever need to prevent and treat any infection, all without the use of any prescription medications. Dr. Ralph La Guardia has spent over 3 decades researching alternative ways of treating and preventing diseases of all types. He's been in private practice in Connecticut for more than 30 years. During that time, he's learned what alternative and natural methods work and which ones are snake oil. He's read hundreds of books and research articles on alternative ways of treating different diseases and has a huge personal library of many of these out-of-print books. He's well known in the medical underground of pioneering integrative medical practitioners. Integrative medicine is a highly effective combination of traditional and alternative medicine. He's authored the Doomsday Book of Medicine, considered by many to be the best book on medical prepping. He's also written the Bible of Alternative Medicine. Lives on an organic farm with his family in Connecticut. Happy to have Dr. Ralph La Guardia join me now here on Speaking of Writers. Ralph, welcome to this program.
Thank you very much.
First off, why this book for you?
I was frustrated by, basically for COVID. COVID was such a disaster, in my opinion, as the medical profession dropped the ball so bad on it that a lot of us knew ways of treating it, and I thought the public has to learn this stuff. It's circulating among just a handful of practitioners, but not known to the general public and completely unknown to mainstream medicine.
What do you hope to teach patients with this book?
Well, it is a handbook that they can utilize for any illness. So you just have it home. You feel a cold coming on, you turn to the section on colds. You feel a urinary tract infection, you turn to that. You have a rash and it looks infected on your skin, you turn to that. You have athlete's foot, you turn to that. So it empowers patients and helps them circumvent the medical system. A lot of these things, in fact, most of them, they could treat themselves quite effectively with the methods I'll teach them.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here in this book. How do you supercharge your immune system?
Well, infections only come about for one reason. Your immune system's overwhelmed. That's the only way you get an infection. That's the reason why when there's flu going through an area or any infection, everyone doesn't get it. It all depends on your immune system. People with better immunity resist it. People with weaker immune systems do not. And so I always like to teach my patients how to boost their immune system always to make, and it's not 100% guaranteed, but it'll certainly reduce the number of infections you have, if not eliminate them completely. And the ones you have will be quite mild. So there's various ways you can do it. I have this thing called, the Gang of 7 is one thing I use mostly. And the Gang of 7 is vitamins A, C, and D, quercetin, zinc, iodine, and selenium. Those 3 minerals, those 3 vitamins, and a plant flavonoid, quercetin, work phenomenally well to boost your immune system and prevent viral infections, bacterial infections, fungal infections. It works against everything.
We're chatting with Dr. Ralph La Guardia here on Speaking of Writers. His book is Infected, Secrets from the Medical Underground. So what is this medical underground like?
Well, it's an informal network of alternative practitioners from around the country. Many of us have written books. Many of us communicate via articles with, posting and different things with each other, different venues. It's not a formal network at all. But over the years, there's been a handful of us who've written books on it, and we've stood out. And those guys, I stand on the shoulders of those fellows. They've come before me. A lot of them have done fabulous work, starting years ago with Linus Pauling. And some of them are not even physicians that came up with ways to hack your immune system with vitamin C and different orthomolecular treatments. And it's progressed to this day when I utilize stuff like nebulizer treatments with hydrogen peroxide to wipe out respiratory tract infections of all types, including COVID. It's very effective against it. A doctor named Dave Bronstein out of Detroit had 200 COVID patients at the height of COVID, treated them with just nebulizer treatments, a regular nebulizer with hydrogen peroxide diluted with saline, and cured 199 immediately, and one, he had to add some ozone to it. So these are really highly effective, inexpensive methods to treat any respiratory tract infection, and it'll work for all of them. And so, I wanted to get this out to the general public so they'll be able to utilize that, and God forbid we have another pandemic of some type.
Chapter 7 in the book is all about COVID-19, and you talk about mental attitude, too.
Well, I've been in practice a long time, and I've seen what the mind can do as far as undermining or underpinning your health. For example, a lot of patients, when I first tell them they have cancer, they immediately divide into two groups. One group that thinks, oh, my God, I am so screwed. This is it. I'm done. And the other group that says, I'm going to do everything to beat this. And the outcomes, even with the same type of cancers with the same staging, are miraculously different. The people with great attitudes do way better than the people who don't have that, who die right away. And so I learned over the years that means a lot. And, Norman Cousins wrote a book on it using laughter therapy. When he was very ill and checked himself out of the hospital and checked into a hotel and just watched comedies and laughed for weeks and had a recovery from it. So, your mind controls everything. In fact, you could take someone, hypnotize them, and tell them an eraser is a match, and they'll get a burn. It looks like a match burnt them. They'll blister and everything. So, if that doesn't prove the mind controls the body, nothing does. So that's why I try to say that attitude contributes so much to the outcome of your illness.
What about the importance of nutrition and health?
Nutrition's paramount. That's how you boost your immune system. You are what you eat. If you're eating a lot of processed foods and foods devoid of minerals and trace elements and vitamins, your body is screaming for that stuff. And consequently, you'll suffer the ravages of chronic diseases, and your immune system will be devastated from that diet and be down. For example, vitamin D. Vitamin D low vitamin D is an epidemic among American patients in all walks of life. Ironically, my darker-skinned patients of color and my very fair-skinned white patients are in the same boat for different reasons. The black patients evolved in a tropical environment, Africa, for example, where they had tons of sunlight. Then they move here to a temperate environment, and they don't have that sunlight, but they still have the melanin in their skin that's blocking the sunlight. And the fair-skinned white patients go out and lather themselves up with sunblock. So consequently, they both have abysmally low levels of vitamin D. And just because these, unlike when I was a kid, we spent all day outside.
Right.
You only came in when you had to.
Yes.
A lot of people today just never go outside. They stay in front of computers. They stay indoors. Their exposure to sunlight is abysmally low, and there's not that much vitamin D in the diet, so you have to get it. Best way to get it is from sunlight. You can certainly supplement it, and I have people do that. Mm-hmm. But one of the other problems people have when they take supplements is that vitamins come in two types, fat-soluble and water-soluble. Soluble means what they dissolve in. All vitamins are fat-soluble except for B and C. And so if you take vitamins A, D, E, K, a multivitamin, and you don't take it with fat, it goes right through you. You don't absorb it. And that seems to be an unknown fact out there. Yeah. Everyone's shocked when I tell them that. And so even the studies, I'm always arguing about the studies that show, vitamin D is not that effective. I read them all. In none of these studies do they tell patients to take it with a fatty meal. So it's otherwise. So in my mind, it's completely random, the outcomes. It's of ultimate importance to take vitamins with a fatty meal unless they're B or C.
Chatting with Dr. Ralph La Guardia here on Speaking of Writers, his book, fascinating book, Infected Secrets from the Medical Underground. Chapter 8 deals with skin infections, and you touch on tea tree oil, I noticed in that chapter.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. Tea tree oil, one of the best things for skin infections of any type is betadine, which is iodine, which works unbelievably well. It wipes out athlete's foot. It wipes out fungal infections of all types. It wipes out bacterial infections, and it prevents resistance at all. It's not like an antibiotic where you can develop resistance to betadine or iodine. That's povidone. Iodine is a type of iodine. It's liquid. But it's immensely useful. In fact, proven by the fact that we still use it universally in hospitals to cleanse surfaces and stuff. Everything is we prep people before surgery with betadine. It's unbelievably useful and cheap and readily available to everyone. And so that there's a few ways. In each of the sections, I give multiple ways to treat every problem. So you're not just locked into one treatment. I'll give half a dozen or more, even a dozen treatments for various things that'll help. And that's why I want patients to have options.
Yeah, a lot of options here, even under skin infections, apple cider vinegar, and activated charcoal. What is activated charcoal?
Activated charcoal is a form of charcoal that has an unbelievably large surface area to it. It's very porous. And what happens is we use it routinely in hospitals for overdoses. Because what you do is you run an NG tube from the nose into the stomach and you flush it with activated charcoal, which binds everything to it. It doesn't absorb it like sand absorbing water. It's not like that. It adsorbs it, ADSORB, which means it chemically bonds to the surface of it. So you won't bloat up from it. But it works very well I give it to patients all the time who come in vomiting. They come into my office. I give them some activated charcoal, have them sit down for a half hour, and it soothes their stomach and binds up everything. And it works very well for skin infections as well. It'll bind up everything. It works good for snake bites, all kinds of things, because of its absorptive surface on it. It's so huge that and no chemical can get past it. It works very well.
Chatting with Dr. Ralph La Guardia in our remaining moments. The book is Infected: Secrets from the Medical Underground. It is available, by the way, at writersrepublic.com. Writersrepublic.com. We'll give that website address out again before.
It's on Amazon.
And Amazon, too. And Amazon as well. This is a terrific book. And Dr. La Guardia, what would you like readers to take away from this book?
I'd like them to take away the fact that nutrition is everything. And if they could just make several small moves a day by taking different vitamins and supplements, it'll make such dramatic changes to their health and improve their health across the board with no side effects. That's the beautiful part. This stuff is side effect free and stuff your body recognizes. So it's not like a foreign substance your body has to deal with and detoxify or anything. It has systems in place to absorb all this stuff because it's critical to your body's health and it needs it. And so I think patients will learn a lot from the book and learn how to various things, hydrate themselves, how to supplement, how to get exposed to sunlight. Things like sunlight lowers your cholesterol level besides raising your vitamin D level, because the backbone for vitamin D is a cholesterol molecule. And so there's ways that you can improve your health dramatically with just little things like sitting outside on a good day and getting some sunlight. And that's clearly you have to make sure, depending on your skin tone, you don't get burnt. But even if you look at pictures from the old days from like New England, from these farms and stuff at the turn of the last century, these farmers who were mostly Northern European, Irish, English, German, Polish, they were deeply tanned.
Yes.
These guys weren't sunburnt because they followed the seasons. They were out there as soon as spring came, and their skin slowly got acclimated to it. There was, despite what dermatologist says, there was no rash of skin cancer among these guys because skin cancer comes from being recurrently burnt. These guys were never burnt. They were slowly tanned until they were bronzed, by the end of the summer. And that's healthy for you. That's not. The dermatologists have it completely wrong, saying stay out of the sun. If sun hurt us and caused cancer, we would never evolved as a species. We would have died off a long time ago. It's a modern phenomenon for people staying indoors all the time, going out and getting burnt. That's a problem. But if you slowly acclimate yourself by going early in the morning and late day sun, a half hour, an hour a day, no matter how fair-skinned you are, by the end of the season, if you start that in the spring, by fall, you're going to be deeply tanned and not burnt.
The book is Infected: Secrets from the Medical Underground. The author is Dr. Ralph La Guardia, and you can get this book at writersrepublic.com and Amazon as well. Dr. La Guardia, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And this is Speaking of Writers.